What is Trump's new term going to look like, and how will it affect China?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we can expect from Trump 2.0 is uncertainty and chaos. Other than that, we cannot really say much about what he is going to do. And I think it is quite certain, given the cabinet appointments that he has nominated, there are going to be people who are extremely hawkish on China, but he himself has sent mixed messages. So we just don't know where the policy program is going to be, because there are conflicting messages coming from his appointees and from himself. Unlike Biden administration, when he came into power in 2021, he was very clear about his policy on China, and his Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, Treasury Secretary, they were all on the same page. Right? So that's the big difference between Trump 2.0 and the Biden administration. But the other thing I'm willing to make a prediction of is that Trump is going to undermine the professionalism and the expertise of American government. And he's going to try to undermine democracy as well. So these efforts, he may not be successful, but he is going to make those efforts. These efforts are going to boost the reputation and the prestige of autocratic regimes such as Russia and China. So the relative standing of the United States in the next 4 years is going to decline.
So it does seem that Trump has quite a adverse stance on China. Like China, is stealing American jobs, and he mentions a lot tariffs. We're going to, tax everything.
But also, what about his administration or things he said that makes you think he's kind of mixed on China?
Yeah.
Because I think for most people, he's the most anti-China president perhaps we've had in recent times. So what makes you...
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We know that Trump is an admirer of autocrats.
So you think he admires autocrats?
He does.
Okay.
Openly and loudly. He admires Putin. He admires Xi Jinping. So yes, he has attacked China as a country, but he has praised the Chinese leader and the Russian leader, right? So that's a very different way that we usually think about relationship between China and the United States, because if you have a very hawkish view on the country, you tend to have a hawkish view on the leader that presides over that country. And whereas Trump has a split personality on that particular issue. The other feature of Trump is that he is a very transactional politician. So he believes that he can do transactions with autocrats. He tried to do that during his first administration with North Korea. He didn't succeed. He didn't go anywhere, but he did. And this time around, you can imagine that he can do a transactional foreign policy vis-a-vis China, aiming not so much at the country, but aiming at getting a deal from the Chinese leader.
So you think all this talks of 60% tariffs, it's really because he has an ulterior motive? You don't actually think he's going to pursue such protectionist policies?
No, he does believe in protectionism, and he has been very consistent on that point of view, going back to the 1980s when he criticized Japan. But now he's the president, so he may very well use tariff as a bargaining chip with Canada, with Mexico, with EU, with China, right? So it is not an ideological belief. But on the other hand, he clearly doesn't have an ideological faith in free trade either.
Do you think that's a positive thing for America, that he's going to impose all these tariffs, or do you think this will hurt America?
It's going to be disastrous. If he does go ahead with the tariff levels that he was talking about, 60% on Chinese goods, and tariffs on EU, on Canada, on Mexico. I don't see, just as a transactional matter, I actually don't see the logic with the way that he goes about his tariff policy. If I were the US president, and then I try to fundamentally change the relationship between China and the United States, I would impose high tariffs on China and lower tariffs on other countries, right? Such as from ASEAN countries, such as from EU, such as from Mexico and Canada. Because what you want to do is you want to motivate and create a momentum for Chinese manufacturing production to leave that country to go to another country that can export to the United States. And the other element of the irrationality of his plan is that if you impose tariffs on all the countries, then China still has a competitive advantage because China has a very low cost base. They are very competitive in certain products. And if you raise tariffs on me, but also on my competitors,
Right.
I still have that cost advantage, right? So it's a very stupid idea on his part.
There's another element of this is that BYD, the electric vehicle company in China, they're also starting to set up factories in Brazil, Mexico, Thailand. So essentially, China are sort of circumventing this kind of protectionist policy from Trump.
Yeah, so circumventing is one way to put it. But if you that view is very widespread, which is that somehow it is like a master plan on the part of China to. Definitely, there is that. I'm not saying there's not that motivation. But what's really important in terms of economic activities is where employment is created, where the income is generated, where the revenue is generated. If these manufacturing operations move away from China, they also take away income generating and employment generating opportunities for Chinese workers, for Chinese banks and capital providers. So yes, you do this to evade the tariff, but in the long run, it is going to have a drag effect on Chinese economy.